What's going on, everyone? Chargers Now is presented by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. On today's show, we're going to be talking about some moves that the Los Angeles Chargers should potentially look at making because minicamp, OTAs, it's all done. It's over. That doesn't mean that there aren't ways for this Chargers team to add to the roster. So we're going to go through 5 different free agent targets that I certainly think the Chargers should at the very least kick the tires on these players. Could they come in and add to this Chargers team and just make this roster deeper than it already was? Who do you want the Chargers to sign in free agency? Let me know your opinion on that question down below in our comment section. I'm very interested on who you think is a must go and get free agent target for this team in Los Angeles. I think there are a couple of big names, and I'm going to give you my 5 top guys, not necessarily in any particular order, but 5 guys that the Chargers definitely need to explore signing them as free agents. The first player that I want to discuss on today's program is honestly a guy that I'm shocked isn't a Los Angeles Charger yet, and that, of course, is wide receiver Keenan Allen. Now, obviously, Allen spent last year in Los Angeles, had a fairly decent year, better than his 2024 season, and it was one of his healthier years that he's had to date. Now, it certainly felt like Allen might have been kind of going on the end of his run of being one of the more elite wide receivers in the National Football League. But to sit here and say that Keenan Allen is not a wide receiver that can do a lot of really good things for this team, I think is incorrect. And I actually believe that Keenan Allen is someone who would do a lot of really good things with Mike McDaniel. Like when we think about Mike McDaniel, he wants to get the ball to his playmakers very quickly. He wants to get the ball to his playmakers in space. And while Keenan Allen certainly is an older man, although I do love his haircut, it is important to mention that he's still someone that when he gets into space, we know that he can boogie and he can go and make some big-time plays. Now, when you look at the Chargers wide receiver depth chart, obviously Quentin Johnston, Ladd McConkey are kind of your 1A, 1B. Now, Johnston had a lot of love coming out of OTAs and minicamp from the different successes that he had for this team. But McConkey also, there's a strong belief that he's going to add in really well to this team and everything that this team can do. What'll be interesting to see with McConkey, in my opinion, is how much of this is hearsay and how much of it are we actually going to see translated on the field. Now, I think you're going to see a lot of it translated on the field, but we didn't get to see it during minicamp and OTAs because of his injuries. Brennan Thompson is someone that is also going to be interesting to take a look at for this Chargers team. Because when you look at Thompson, he had one minicamp practice where obviously reporters were able to be at, and he balled the you-know-what out. I mean, the kid was elite. And then he got hurt, and then we didn't see him for quite a while. Now, that's not to say that I think he's going to miss any real significant time. He's certainly not going to miss any preseason games, in my opinion, at least from where the injury is being reported right now. But it certainly feels like there are some players on this team that fit really well into the system that Mike McDaniel wants to run. And that's not to say that Trey Harris doesn't do it either. He's also someone that I think can have success. I still feel like it wouldn't be a bad idea to bring Keenan Allen in. I mean, let's just talk about, one, what he means to the franchise. He's been someone that spent a lot of time in San Diego as well as in Los Angeles, having some of his better years. In the National Football League with the Chargers organization, he can teach a lot of the young guys because if you remove him, Quentin Johnston is really your next oldest wide receiver that you're going to lean on. So it's important to have him around for a lot of that younger crew. And I still think he can get a lot of stuff done. And you're dealing with a wide receiver room where if you add him in, well, Thompson's had some injury issues already. We know that Ladd McConkey's already had injury issues. And Keenan Allen, let's be honest, is not always the healthiest individual. So you could be adding basically a backup or a guarantee that if there is an injury, well, we still have one of or two of the 3 guys from this 3-man wide receiver crew that can go in the slot for us. Another wide receiver that I think would be interesting for this Chargers team to at least take a look at is a man by the name of Stefon Diggs. Now, obviously, he is someone that can be a little bit of a wide receiver head case, but I don't think it's that crazy if the Chargers decide to say, hey, let's give Diggs a try. Before we continue on with today's program, I got to let you know that today's show is made possible by SeatGeek. When it's time to get out of the house, there's not many better options right now than a ball game. And with SeatGeek being MLB's official ticket marketplace, your tickets are fully guaranteed and instantly fulfilled in your account after purchase. Now, you know me, I've been on SeatGeek looking at Chargers tickets, and I thought it'd be fun to take a look at that game against the Cardinals to open the season. I'm looking for the green dots, trying to find the best deal possible. And of course, you know me, I like to be near the end zone, trying to see as many touchdowns as I possibly can. Whether it's a Chargers game with a special lady friend or a Co-Wetzel concert with the boys, SeatGeek has your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. So look for the green dots. Green means good. Red means bad. And of course, I have a code for you guys. You can use code CHAT10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with the promo code CHAT10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you so very much, SeatGeek. Now, while Stefon Diggs might be someone that I think head case would be nice, or maybe diva wide receiver is probably the better way to explain him. To sit here and say that he doesn't have good production would simply just be wrong. Obviously, over 1,000 yards last year, and that's coming off a torn ACL injury that he had suffered the previous season. Now, what's interesting about Diggs is I'm not going to sit here and say that he's a wide receiver number one anymore, and I think there are some people that are going to make the argument that he was never really a wide receiver one. But what you would be asking him to be is a veteran wide receiver who can catch the football, make people miss in space, and have a high yards per game average. And that's certainly something that he can continue to do in the National Football League. And I think there's a decent chance that you get a slightly better version of him next year. And I know that's weird to say with someone his age, but he's not going to be coming off of a torn ACL anymore, right? Usually guys, when they're coming off that torn ACL, it takes them 1 to 18 months, 1 year to 18 months to be ready to go. And so you'd get him after a long layoff. He's someone that, I don't know that you necessarily love his veteran presence, but to sit here and say that he can't help this team would be an incorrect statement. It certainly feels like he would be someone that wouldn't maybe have his diva moments in Los Angeles. And I think that also if Justin Herbert's finding ways to get him the football early on, I think it just adds more elements to this team. If you just bring in one of these two receivers between Allen and Diggs, you're now looking at a wide receiver unit, in my opinion, that has, minimum 5-6 guys that at any moment can get gone and make a big explosive play. That's something that's dangerous to look at. Let's talk about Trevon Diggs next. Now, this one is interesting, and I know he's got some problems, specifically with his injury history. Now, when we look at the Chargers cornerback depth chart, it is a good, solid crew. Solid. But I'm not going to sit here and say that it's one of the best cornerback rooms in the National Football League. And honestly, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you that it can't be improved by adding in a cornerback. But I think it's a cornerback depth chart that is good enough to where you can take a risk on a player who is maybe a little bit older, maybe a little bit more injury prone, maybe someone that just needs to be in the right system. Now, again, we're dealing with another diva situation, but we're not that far removed from his 2021 season where he was one of the top guys in interceptions in the National Football League. Now, Diggs, he hasn't been healthy the last couple of years, and that's an issue, and he's also been someone who has bounced around from team to team. But when he's been able to be out on the field and play significant snaps, he is someone that is honestly a ball hawk, and he is someone that's going to be able to go in and create a lot of turnovers for this Chargers team. No, I'm not saying that this Chargers team can't create turnovers. I mean, just look at all the minicamp reports. I think Tony Jefferson was basically averaging an interception per team session or whatever that number was. It was insane. But when I look at a guy like Diggs, to sit here and say that he is not an athlete, to sit here and say that he cannot add into this team, to sit here and say that he is not ready for prime time is simply incorrect. You're just going to have to be able to trust your doctors and your evaluators if you do bring him in for a workout, and if they say he's okay, that he's going to be okay and make it through an entire year. Now, you could also look at him and say, hey, this is going to be our guy who's our cornerback 3. You're not bringing him in to be your number 1 cornerback. You're bringing him in potentially to be a wild card. He's also someone that you're probably going to be able to sign for a vet minimum, so you're not going to have to pay him a ton of money. You can bring Diggs in and then essentially say, hey, go win a job. And if he doesn't, you can cut him and move on. and no harm, no foul. If he does come in and win a job, well, hey, now you got a guy who has the potential to be one of the best interception guys in the National Football League. Next target, let's talk about Jadeveon Clowney, because this is an interesting prospect that, I guess I shouldn't say prospect, he's a free agent, but he is someone that we've talked about a lot on the show. He's certainly someone who has had a very, very long career, and I don't think it's that crazy to say that he is someone that's going to continue to add to this team. When you look at Clowney, he's great at stopping the run while also being great at getting after the passer. I mean, 8.5 sacks last year in 13 games is a very impressive number, basically averaging a TFL per game. He's someone that fits into the Jesse Minter system, which is what Chris O'Leary is essentially running, right? It is a system that's going to lean on defensive linemen, edge rushers that can do a multitude of different things, like stop the run, as well as get after the passer. He's a great veteran voice that can add into Khalil Mack when you're talking to Tuli, when you're talking to Akeem Mesidor. You're going to get more production than you get out of Bud Dupree. He can also help Dame Tucker. So I'm looking at Jadeveon Clowney. He helps you win right now. You're going to get him for a relatively cheap contract. The Chargers have the money and the cap space to make this possibility a reality. I look at Jadeveon Clowney and say, why not kick the tires on him? Why not make that edge room a strength? You have a real shot to win a title this year. Go out and do it. That brings us to today's PrizePicks question of the day. 5.5 receiving TDs for Quentin Johnston this year. Type M for more, type L for less. While you're answering the question, here is a lineup I'm going with this year. PrizePicks is America's #1 sports picks app and is the best place to win cash while watching sports. I have the more on Justin Herbert pass yards. I believe the offense will be much improved in LA, and that should hopefully lead to more passing yards for Herbert. That's why I have the more on his passing yards. I have the more on Quentin Johnston receiving TDs. I believe that Johnson will have more opportunities to catch the football with a hopefully improved offense in Los Angeles. That's why I have the more on his receiving TDs. I also have the more on Rashid Shaheed receiving yards. A full offseason in Seattle should help Shaheed build better chemistry with Darnold. That's why I have the more on his receiving yards. New user offer. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. That's code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to get an extra $50 in lineups with PrizePicks. Clickable link to download the app is in the comments and description. My answer for the PrizePicks question of the day is more on Quentin Johnston receiving TDs. Last free agent target that I want to talk about is another edge rusher, and that is a man by the name of Kyle Van Noy. Now, he would be someone that I do think would be an interesting addition to this Chargers team because, well, the 2025 stats obviously go drastically down, but he's not that far removed from a double-digit sack year and another year where he was in the conversation for getting a double-digit sack total. Kyle Van Noy is someone that we know can have a lot of success in this type of defensive scheme because he had that type of success in Baltimore with Mike Macdonald, who, by the way, I shouldn't have called it the Jesse Minter defensive scheme because it really is the Mike Macdonald defensive scheme. Kyle Van Noy is built for this defense, and he is someone that can, again, be a veteran voice to the younger edge rushers while also at the same time being a part of a win-now mode and win-now culture. He's going to be a guy who's relatively cheap, and the Chargers, we do know, can afford to pay him. When I look at a guy like Kyle Van Noy, why can't he help the Chargers go that extra mile? Hit that subscribe button because if any of these rumors become a reality, if any of this news breaks, we're going to make sure that we have a video out here on the channel. So if the Chargers do end up signing any free agents, we're going to have content for you that you certainly do not want to miss. So hit that sub button. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video. Cannot wait to see you next time. Go tell someone that you love them. And as always, bolt up.